Hey everybody, it's me again, back at it again. This is kind of an addendum type of thing, right? So I recorded part 3 to the series that I was doing about this particular article, Black Women, Pick Me, Black Women, Tactical Patriarchal Femininity in the Black Manosphere by Dr. Bell. I think I'm actually going to do, take a look at incel violence. I might actually do that for my next process here. Because I'm really interested, right? And I might do it from the law enforcement aspect. So if you're not following me on LMH Consulting Services, that's probably where I'm going to put that one at, because I'm going to take a look at 2 different articles and really kind of analyze, the breakdown between. I'm going to do a part 1 and part 2. I'm going to look at 2 articles and take a look at the incel violence and mass shootings and all that, and see if there really is a link, right? One lady who is that? I believe she did it for Harvard or University of Rhode Island, and now she's at Harvard, or she switched. I don't know what her name. I don't know. Anyway, and then a guy did one. 2 guys actually did one about where's all this massive violence. It should be more if incels were such a problem. But anyway, I'm going to get into that. So this is just a kind of a wrap up as far as I just want to do this real brief wrap up. I want to keep this down to less than 10 minutes, and I'll probably put this as a summary to the 3-part series that I did about this paper. Just some things that I noticed that they were lacking in this paper as I was editing this. I just want to make sure I covered these things. Now, this is not to critique Dr. Bell's writing skills or anything like that. She's obviously, a smart lady who's got some things to say. But I just have a problem with this attacks on the manosphere. And let me say, I've also been very, very critical of the manosphere. I have been. I probably will continue to be. I think that the manosphere should be by men, advocating for men, in trying to get us to be better as men. That's what I think it should be. Men advocating for men, trying to get us to be better, giving us life skills, life coaching, telling us about how to buy property, how to get our physical aesthetics in place, telling us to eat right, man up, how to be a boss, how to be a leader, all that. That's what I think it really, really should be. And that's all I'm trying to do. So when I took a look at this paper, here's some things that I noticed that were missing. And this is not a complete critique. We can't cover everything at all times, but some things I would have liked to have seen that were in there. She talked, and this is in no particular order. I just remember these and wrote them down as I did it. She talked about men's work being more valuable than women's work, or men being inherently more valuable than women. I don't think there's any support for that. I don't think that there's any. I don't listen to any man. Maybe somebody said it. What they have tried to say in the manosphere is that men and women's roles are simply different. That's all they've said. Men and women's roles are simply different, and that's where I would leave it at. Men and women's roles are simply different. No one's is more valuable than the other, right? If I don't go out there and work, and I'm doing all housework, if we're both doing housework all the time, we're not going to be able to sustain the home. If we're both out there working, somebody's got to be in the house sustaining the home, cooking, cleaning, and if whether we're both doing it or whether one person got to do it. So in the traditional role that many men in the manosphere, I acknowledge that they want, is that they want a woman who's going to be more of a nurturing, domesticated woman. That's what they want. If nobody likes that, then that's fine. But that's what they want. And to denigrate the ladies who also want that, I think is also unfair. All right. So I think that was it. There was no real data and statistics, right? She talked about the Moynihan report. She talked about E. Franklin Fraser's work, and didn't really rebut any of the things that they were saying, right? So almost all of her links were other articles by other so-called feminists, right? There was no actual links, right? When they talk about, and one of the big disappointments that I had was they talked about, this link between the manosphere and violence, right? And she linked to another PhD student who was writing about that, tried to make this link, but we still haven't covered that link. That's why I said I want to cover this link by these two articles that I found. I want to see if there's a link there, right? Because they didn't cover it in this particular work, that there is a definite, because men in the manosphere are denying the humanity somehow of ladies, particularly black women, that leaves them open to more violence because they are women. That's the argument. They're misogynoir, exhibited by black males in the manosphere, leads to more violence towards black women. And I don't think that that's a fair correlation or causation at all. I don't think that that's fair. And if there is, please give us the data. It wasn't included in this paper. And she talked about E. Franklin Fraser again, and Patrick Moynihan's report of the 1960s didn't show anything to rebut those particular groups of data, right? What's wrong with wanting to be a provider male? They talk about the patriarchy and heterosexual normative type of stuff, and capitalism, all this intersectional type of language. What's wrong with wanting to be a protector and provider? Please elaborate on what's wrong inherently with a man who wants his wife to stay at home and to be more of a domesticated individual. What is wrong with that? Same thing that we're saying as far as the ladies. If this is the life that you want, you don't want that. You want a domesticated husband. If you want to be out there in the workforce and making good bank, then okay. So let me just talk a little bit more about this lack of value. It's not lack of value as a human being. What it is a lack of value to a man in on his game and on his purpose. That's the point. If I'm on my game and I'm on my purpose, if I've gone to school, if I've got my MBA, if I've opened up a business, then the person who I allow to be in my life has to bring value to me and to my home and to what I'm doing. That's the argument. And if some people don't want that, they want a partnership and they want 50-50. Well, those things also require a give and take as well, right? So if I'm making $80,000 a year, you're making $80,000 a year, why do I got to spend my money? This is a real question that we were all asking. Why do I have to spend 100% of my money on the bills and you get to stack your cash? So I should contribute $40,000 into the household, you contribute $40,000 or $50,000, and we save the rest. And what do we do with the rest? Do you get to spend yours on trips and hair and nails? And what do I get to spend mine on, right? So you got to come together about that. It's just coming together and having a conversation as to if we're both working, what we're both going to do, as well as both how we're going to handle these chores. And many men are saying, I want a more domesticated woman. So Kevin Samuels and other people have said, then you got to be able to provide that type of lifestyle with your finances. If you can't provide it, then stop asking for it. No issues with that. Men want a traditional wife who's friendly, fit, feminine, all that type of stuff, right? Ladies have had traditionally no problem with saying that they want certain attributes in a man. How tall he is, how much money he makes, his socioeconomic status, make sure he's not an educated lame. Even though he's got to be educated, he still can't be lame. He's got to be Tupac in a suit. And I had no problems with saying any of that. But as soon as a man says he wants a woman who's fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive, and all that, then that's a problem. There was also no definitions given for patriarchy. Now, some of this probably should have been axiomatic, but it's not, right? You're trying to make a convincing argument, right? And let me back up for a second here. When you write these I know that she knows this. I'm saying this for the audience. When you write these type of papers, right, you're trying to fill in the gap, right? We're trying to fill in, why are we addressing this? What is the problem that's trying to be addressed? And I would assume by the title, right, even from the abstract there, right, she's assuming that there's some type of problem that she's trying to fix. And what is that? What specifically was that problem? That the manosphere is causing damage, or the pickmes are causing damage to the femininity movement? What exactly, precisely, was the deliberacy of the argument? What was the urgency of the argument to do this, right? To write this, right? What was it? What are we trying to do? What is this tactical patriarchal femininity? Was it just that they're a bunch of fakes and frauds, and they're putting on the performance, and they don't really mean it? It could be, So there was really no definition of patriarchy that was given. She kept saying, well, these patriarchal systems. Well, what specifically do you mean when you say that? Do you mean that the man is the head of the household? The man just goes to work and makes more money? What particularly are you talking about when you say these type of words? What is your definition of submissive? Right? Some people, if ladies, we know this, right? You've watched enough content where they say, here I'm talking to Ms. Bell and others, right? If they say that they want a woman, if the woman says that they want a man who's some type of leader, protector, and provider, those are generally the 3 Ps that you're going to get: leader, protector, provider. All with the other attributes is about how tall he is, and that goes into the protection aspect and all this other stuff. If you want these things, what's wrong with that? Nobody's ever said that there's anything wrong with that. Short guys just gotta suck it up. Hey, it just is what it is, and you gotta manifest and do it the best you can with what you have. But what is it wrong with being submissive? Again, if you want a leader, then don't you want to be? If you want a leader, and does he have to lead the family and you, or does co-leaders? I mean, you got to explain what you mean by submissive, so we can understand exactly what it is, and give us an example of what that would be intolerable to you, because it was almost as if it was used in the article as a pejorative. What was the problem? What was the issue? Right? Talked about the retrograde. Doesn't want to go back to the economics and systems and all that. Let's see. So generally, in the article, she was talking about kicking in a greater share of the housework, and it seems to me that seems to be really the argument that we're coming. That when I hear this, I hear a lot about the family dynamics and the arguments over how much housework each individual is doing. I had a lady tell me the same thing. Listen, I don't want to go back to I'm doing 100% of the housework. Okay, but there are articles, and I pulled them up and I talked about them, in which men, I think I talked about in like part 2 or part 1 of this series, right, where there are studies that show that men who do more housework get less sex. Sometimes it works out. There are articles both ways. I try to give straight down the middle there. But so it goes both ways. So you want a guy to take this chance about maybe if I do more housework, maybe I'll get it, and right, and that's just not on top of the regular stress and routine. And you've been together for 5 years, and you want to try new tricks, and he's boring or she's boring, right? So you got to fight. Not only you got to fight that regular routineness about marriage life, but then you got to fight over the quality of the sexual satisfaction in regards to the housework aspects. All this got to be ironed out, right? So it really seems to me that there's an argument about how much housework needs to be going on. I'm working 50% of the time too, and Dr. Bell acknowledges this, right? Black people have never had this luxury of the 1940s and 50s housewives, right? We've never been in that place. And so to want that now and demand that and say that I don't want to do as a man, I don't want to do as much housework, that probably is a little unfair, right? If you're bringing in 80% of the work, then it's time for you to do 20% of the housework. I don't think there's a problem with that. Otherwise, step your game up and do 100%. So again, let me go back to the idea of about worthlessness. This is about I addressed this a little bit, but it's about money and education. Money, education, right? So it has to be good for the family. It has to be good for the family. Generally, men don't want a woman who's going to be there, who's not contributing somehow to the family. What is your contribution? What does your education do for the family? Is your education allowing you to open a better economic doors, that you're going to share your resources now with the family? Do we now get to move into a bigger house because you're bringing in more money? Do we now get to move to a better school system so we can educate our kids? Do we now chip in more for college education and college funds? How does that work out? That's the answer to that. So if we want to solve the equitable share of housework, then let's solve also the equitable share of finances. And again, that's up for each individual couple to have those serious conversations about what are you doing with your money if you're working, all these hours, right? So that would come down to that. No rebuttal to the Fraser-Moynihan report. She talked about the emasculization or the masculinization of the ladies and the feminization of boys. I think that should have been laid out a little bit more. Do you agree with that concept, or do you not agree with that concept? Right. The literature is filled with that. You can go on Google Scholar and see all kind of articles about that. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you not agree with that assessment? This was not addressed in this article. Again, you can't address everything, but if you're going to bring it up, I think that you ought to bring up more than just the blurbs of it. You ought to say a sentence or two about whether you think it's true or not. And here's an article about whether I think it's true or not. I think that I would have been greatly, greatly appreciated. Again, no definitions of patriarchy, femininity, or submission. Maybe she just thought these things were just axiomatic. But again, if you're trying to paint a picture and trying to give a point of view as to why these things are bad for ladies, bad for the future of female advancement, then I think you ought to give some definitions of what you mean by men demanding submission. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? And what does that mean for the greater of the female culture, female gender? And I'll leave it off right there. That's my basic summary. I thought it was an article that was written. She obviously has a bone to pick with the black manosphere, number one, and with black ladies in the manosphere caping for the men in the manosphere. She thought that they were, and she thinks that they are putting on a performance, selling them something that they can never have, and she says it's never going to come true. Right? Your storybook ending Disneyfication, that's the word I'm using, Kevin Samuels, that I got from Kevin Samuels, is never going to happen, and all that. So I think that all that is good. Well, it wasn't good, but it just is what it is. And this is why she wrote the articles, because she has a problem with feminism. She has a problem with masculinity, has a problem with the black manosphere, has a problem with ladies in the manosphere putting on this airs, putting on a performance in order to engage in tactical patriarchal femininity to get the attention and the financial support of very high status men. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions, and if you have not watched the other 3 videos, please take time to do so. I just want to do the summary at the end of this video and do a quick summary that will help to give thoughts about this particular article. She targeted 2 individuals by name and a third podcast in the article. I wonder what their thoughts about it are. And do I have critiques of the black manosphere? Yes. I think that there's a lot of scammers in it. I do think that. I think a lot of people are just following the trend and going for clicks and likes and doing what's popular now, the war between men and women. I think that the space needs to be professionalized by those with businesses and PhDs and those who have political clout in order to make some definite advancements to advocate for young men and boys, that we can have a better life. There was clearly many advocates for the ladies space in order for them to do better, to get birth control, to enter the workplace, to get more money, yada, yada, yada. All that I think that was great, fine, and fair. But the question now is, has feminism gone way too far, and have we advocated for ladies at the sacrifice of men? And that's the question that needs to be answered, because men are suffering right now. So much love and peace, everyone.